Hi everyone, this is Teresa at Owl's Nest Quilters. Today's demonstration will be on the 5-groove Pintuck Foot. Setup for the 5-groove Pintuck Foot is very simple. We start with the Pintuck Foot, which as you can see has little ridges on the front and also very deep grooves on the back. This will accommodate the tuck in the fabric. Setup for it machine-wise is an extra spool stand. This is done with 2 spools of thread. So you have an extra spool stand with the spool of thread on it. You put one on the machine. Both threads thread through the machine at the same time, and then they split down here at the bottom. To do pin tucks, the other accessory you will need is a double needle. The double needle I'm using is a 3mm double needle. So the Pintuck Foot is a simple clip-on foot. So that's going to go onto the machine, clips on just like that. The grooves in the foot are what make the tuck. What will happen is the fabric will bunch with the pull of the stitching and create a little ridge and some tunneling on the back. So as this works, you're going to see a double stitch of thread come out of the back of the machine. When this happens, underneath, because there's one bobbin, when you flip this over and look at the underneath side, it's similar to a zigzag. So what happens, the pull of that zigzag is going to pull on the edges of the stitching on top and create a little tunnel. So when you do pin tucks, you get this little raised edge here, this little raised section. So as we stitch this out, this groove appears, and then we use the grooves in the front of the foot. I, by the way, do not use my thread cutter for this. I just leave it. When you start cutting underneath there, you get all kinds of issues. But on the back there, you'll see how the stitches pull and create this nice little ridge on top. Now the point of the grooves on the Pintuck Foot are now the little channel here rides underneath the setting, the little pieces that stick out here on the top, and then you use that as a guide. So I'm no longer looking at the needle. I'm watching that ridge of fabric go right into that little set of nodes here, these little toes on the foot here, if you will. And I use that as a guide. So as I make my rows and rows of pin tucks, I just scoot everything over. So then I will take and put the last stitching that I did under the first on the right hand side, and I just keep going from there. So you can see on there how it comes out the back matched. They're matched up perfectly because I'm using the little grooves in the front to guide my pin tucking with. So what I get are multiple rows of stitches and little raised sections in between them, and it makes for a very attractive decorative stitch. This can be used in a lot of different ways. The other thing I can do is separate those columns and use this is using just every other guide on the Pintuck Foot. So I have I'm skipping 2 guides here and skipping 1 here. So this is one on top of another. So you can get a variety of looks from the Pintuck Foot. This also makes beautiful quilt blocks if you want to do something unusual in a quilt. If you press these, the little raised edges kind of lay flat. They'll lay over. The one caution I have is make sure you're using a straight stitch, or a very narrow serpentine works really well too. It's a little harder to guide a serpentine through, but it can work. But make sure they are very narrow. You don't want to use a too wide of a stitch because of the opening on the Pintuck Foot. You'll break a needle. The double needle will move over too far and one of the needles will break. So straight stitch, set up with 2 spools of thread and a double needle, and you're pin tucking.